Hello, Warrior Women. Karen McCoy here, and let's continue our talk about food. One of my favorite subjects. Okay, so how you eat tells a story. Okay, so let's just put it real simple and clear. You're either self-aware and honest with yourself, right? Or you're kind of checking out. So this is where, when we approach food and when we have healthy food behavior, we are coming from a place of self-care and self-awareness. Okay, so self-awareness is knowing what's going on and being honest with self, and then self-care are the actions that we're taking in order to get to them. So let's say that you want to improve your health, you want to maybe lose some weight, you want to age well with energy and vigor and purpose and passion and all that cool stuff, right? And so this is where, are you approaching every food interaction, let's say eating, eating your lunch? Are you calm? Are you centered? Are you grounded? Are you eating slowly, mindfully? Or are you just devouring? Are you eating fast? Are you eating unconsciously? Are you contracted in the process? So a lot of women that have a lot of food issues, we can call it disordered emotional eating. It can even get to binge eating. It can get to all sorts of other, terrible places where women go, like anorexia or bulimia, that kind of stuff. That's not my specialty, but there is a continuum. Okay, so it depends on where you are in the continuum. Over here is healthy eating. This is where we learn to be able to see food as food, enjoy it, celebrate it. But when it's done, it's done. We don't put a lot of emphasis on it. And when we're not eating, we don't think about it. Like, we just don't. It's on automatic pilot. And then we have everything in between where we start moving towards real emotional eating issues. Okay, so where you are on that continuum, that matters. And it might even be that you might be middle of the road if you're starting to downplay your social outings, for example. I don't go out very much anymore because there's that food thing, or I don't want people to see me, or I don't know what to eat and it causes such stress, or I might go off of my healthy eating plan and then it's going to blow everything. So that is disordered thinking around food. So again, where you are kind of depends on where we work from in order to bring you over into having a healthy, free and empowering relationship with food, but we let food be food again, right? So there's a couple of women I just want to share some of their habits with you, because you might see yourself in them. So one, I'll call her Laura. I went out to dinner with her. Laura and I ordered some dinner, and it was like she devoured it. Like, it was like a duty. It was just like, got to get it done, right? And I went, okay, that's interesting, because I'm leisurely eating and blah, blah, blah. We had similar meal size. Hers was gone. Mine was only half eaten. I'm not making any judgment on it whatsoever. But the point is, I know what her goals were around her desired weight loss. But her approach to food was almost like a frenzy. It was almost, and I don't know, again, what was at the bottom of that, because it depends on the intention behind the action, not the action itself. I could put a story on it that she was just really, really hungry, or it could be that food makes her panic and she has to devour it all because maybe there's food shortage growing up for her. Maybe that's a story. I don't know, but it's really important that we don't pass judgment, but we look at the behavior. And then if I'm coaching her, which I wasn't, but if I'm coaching her, we would go into the backstory. We would go into the background, and I would ask questions to try to figure out, where is this coming from? Because it was obvious to me, and in subsequent meals, that this is a habit of hers, but getting to the root of the why is really, really important. Another girl, oh yes, I'll call her Sarah. Sarah was a lady who came into a 16-week program with me, and she was using a food app. Now, I'm okay with women using a food app because what it does is it teaches women a lot about macronutrients, a lot about calories. If they don't know that already, what I don't want is them to be dependent on it. Because if they're dependent on it, then they're not going to do well without it. Right. And that's what happened with her. Every time she went off the food app, she gained weight. And she said to me, I can't not use the app because I gain weight. And I said to her, can you see why that is? And she just said, well, because I don't know what I don't understand what calories are in what. Well, she was in a 16-week program, and that was the point of the program, was to help women understand if that's what they need. A lot of us, like, I'm really good. I can look at food and pretty well know the calories in it because I've been doing it so long, but not every woman has that skill set. It's something you have to develop. But she was obviously resistant to developing it because she had used the app for years. So she was dependent on the app and she didn't trust herself to move in and do the harder work of learning the caloric value of certain foods and then putting it together in a meal, which is what we teach in my programming. And she got quite mad at me at the end because she was insisting that you can't really do weight loss unless you had an app. And that was just her belief. That was her story, right? So her story was I need an app in order to lose weight, but the deeper story was her belief system that she could not learn how to run it herself, or deeper, maybe she didn't want to learn how to run it herself, that she constantly wanted to be able to delay responsibility. And so that was the makeup in her world, right? So again, it's coming to understand, what is your real story here, right? And so how she was eating was really contracted, really in control, really about measuring and weighing everything. And that made her feel like she could stay on track, but she was a prisoner to her app. Maybe she still is. I don't know. And then the third one is, I'll call her Cindy. I loved her. She's one of those ladies. She's just so carefree. And it's just, life is so good. And I'm retired and I don't want to work at stuff. And I just want to, let stuff roll off my back. Okay, great. But when it came to her body goals, she wanted and needed to lose a good amount of weight. So what we recognize, because again, this just comes from, understanding and talking and asking questions. And a lot of her outings, she's like, oh, yeah, well, I went to this buffet because her husband was very prominent in a software techie company. And so they had all these big gatherings and big meetings with all the shareholders and stuff. And there was an abundance of food. And she said, yeah, I just, I don't really sit down for a meal. I don't really want a meal. I just want a lot of different tastes. And she would just graze and just, and she's talking to people and she'd be grazing over here. So she actually didn't think she was eating that much because she would only have a few tortilla chips and dip, or she would have a drumstick over here. But there's no sense of amount when we're doing that. And it's not conscious eating, it's very unconscious. And so she was consciously socializing, but she was unconsciously grazing. And these would happen a couple times a week, right? And the grazing lifestyle was the thing that she needed to rein in. Now, here's the challenge. She felt that if she didn't have that, she would lose her social life. And she was making it either or. She was resistant to, oh, how are you today? I'm good. Yeah. Oh, Jerry, it's nice to see you. Yeah, yeah. And so she was resistant to changing that whatever that real easiness was about her, and her casualness with food. But there was nothing casual about it because she was holding an extra 100 pounds on her body, and it was troubling to her. And she was starting to show some health issues like blood pressure, blood sugars, that kind of stuff. And so we had to really reframe and massage her meaning around socializing and food. And she came to understand, because she really wanted to grasp it, that she could have both. But what she learned to do was take a little plate and have a little plate that she could carry with her and plate it, once, maybe twice, while she's going around and socializing with all of her lovelies. And she could plate it, but she had boundaries around the food. Because there's not many people I know that can just eat mindlessly or graze continuously, unless you're like 16 years old, and be able to keep the weight down. And so this habit of hers had been built over years, and it was clicked into her joyful casualness around her socializing. And we had to reframe it so that she could learn and understand she can still do both. And it's going to help her reach her goals of healthy weight loss and maintenance and health, and be able to have an enjoyable time at these outings. And it worked, because it was the first time she saw it from the outside looking in. So what I always say is take the witness seat. So pretend, if you feel unconscious about what your habits are, you're like, I don't quite get it, because it's hard to look at the label on the jar when you're inside the jar, right? So it's hard to be subjective with self. But what I always say, and this is what I learned, was just play witness, like in Buddhism, which is a philosophy that I love, and I use a lot of it in my coaching. Like, you're on stage, okay? So there you are in this scenario, you're on stage. And so here is Cindy on stage in this big social event with all these beautiful, prominent people and all this beautiful food. And she's just like, dancing from table to table and food to food to food. But you're in the audience sitting watching. So what are you witnessing yourself doing? So get out of yourself, sit back like you're in the audience, and start witnessing yourself from back there. And you're going to be able to create a subjective, free version and vision of yourself that is going to allow you to see things differently. Because when you see things differently, when you have that shift in perspective, that is where all the change occurs, is in that shift in perspective. And then that grows into a new thought, new belief, new habit. Does that make sense? And I just want to share this with you. It's something that I do in my program, is I do something called the McCoy Mini Fast. And so it's not a fast, it's not a detox, it's not a cleanse, guys. I don't believe in that stuff. You guys know I don't believe in diets. That's what's ruining women and their health, in my humble opinion. It's called the 36-hour mini McCoy juice fast. And I learned this many years ago. And so we have our last meal, say, on Sunday night, whatever. And then we fast, but we use veggie juices throughout Monday and all the way through to Tuesday afternoon. Now, here's the deal. Yes, there's certain things that we do along the way to support it. But what it did for me, and I've been practicing this for 15 years, and when you do it and how you do it is important, but what it did for me and what I learned it's doing for my many clients who choose to adopt it, because some women are fearful. Oh, I can't go 36 hours without food, I'll die. Okay, so then for those people, we won't do it. It's okay. But it gives you more respect for food. Now, there's two kinds of people that can do it. People that have strong mental acuity, and then people who it might just take them over the edge, right? It depends on the personality of the person, really. And so if we have food issues, if we haven't, and this usually comes at the end of my work with them in whatever kind of programming I'm doing with them at the end, because we have to get from disordered thinking around food or poor eating behaviors, whatever, we have to get to the other side. And then the 36-hour juice fast is something that they can do once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever. Again, has to fit their lifestyle, and it's empowering. And what it does, it allows you, when you do eat again, you savor it more, teaches you to slow down on your eating. You appreciate it more. For some people, not. They're like, oh my God, 36 hours. Okay, so then it's not for you. No, don't do it. Okay. It's like an extreme intermittent fast. Don't do it. But for other women that have that mental acuity that we have developed in our programming and coaching, then it works as a beautiful way to honor and appreciate food. And they tend to eat on track and eat very nutritious, beautiful, gorgeous food, even if it's just an apple. They are savoring it. They're mindful. They're slowing down when they eat. They are taking breaths between. So all of that stuff is mindful eating, guys. That's where we need to get to, because mindful eating is where we're slowing down, we're savoring. I say a little prayer before my meals. Or even if it's an apple, I always say to my women, put hand on heart. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful, nutritious food. Even if it's a Starbucks brownie, okay, I don't do it often, but if I do, it's like, thank you, I forgive you. I'm just going to enjoy this. And that's where treats really become treats. And they're treats. They're once in a while. They're not a lifestyle. They're once in a while, like maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe once a month. It doesn't matter. I don't feel the need for it. But when I do, and there's no guilt or shame because I have a different relationship with those treats, right? That's where we need to get to. And so even taking 5 breaths before you eat your meal, 5 breaths, okay? And here's the final thing, guys, do not eat your meal at your computer desk because you are merging boundaries, okay? So not just how you eat, but where you eat matters. And so I have girls, I'm so busy. I have to eat at my computer desk. No, you don't. You can take that for 5 minutes and go stand in another room so that your brain is understanding this is a workstation, that is my eat station, and you've created boundaries. Or what happens is you're constantly bringing stuff into your office and there's no boundaries anymore. And it's messing up your metabolism, it's messing up your mindset, it's messing up your relationship with food that is supposed to be special, not in between keyboards. Okay. So there are times when I'm out and about and I'm busy and I'm out running around, and sometimes there's no other option but to eat in my car. I park it, never eat and drive. Okay, we know that. I park it, I turn off the engine, I take 5 slow breaths, right? And then I indulge slowly and mindfully. Might take 5 or 10 minutes, guys. And again, I have structure and strategy, pardon me, and ritual and honoring my food and my body, which is really, really important. Because unless we have those boundaries, us women they'll all intermingle. And then before you know it, we're so busy doing what we're doing that we're just grabbing whatever. And that is unconscious eating. And that is the worst place that we can be if we want to get lean, or stay at our weight maintenance, whatever that happens to be. Be healthy, be aware, be conscious, be awake. Okay, so it's really important. What is your story around food, and how you eat and where you eat also tells a story. Get conscious with these things, guys. Write them down. If you want more help with it, book a call. We can talk. It's a free call. Free calls for everybody. Okay, you guys, the link's down below. Lots of love to you all. Okay, stay conscious today. Ciao.